What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark, MakeTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and I'm back with Daredevil, Born Again, Season 1, Episode 6. I split them up. They came out on the same day, but I'm doing two different ones because they're two very different episodes. And I liked episode 5 enough that I wanted to make sure that that episode stood on its own, and it wasn't, like, its grade wasn't affected by what inevitably was episode 6. So let's dive in. Yes, it has audio description, and yes, the audio description is still fantastic. The action sequences are still being done really well. There's a fight sequence between Daredevil and Muse that I thought was done really well. There's the juxtaposition of a fight sequence that Daredevil has while Kingpin is also having a fight sequence that I thought was handled really well too, because they're mirroring a lot of like the same moves and punches, and they're showing sort of this duality between Daredevil and Kingpin in that moment. So audio description, fantastic. The show, I don't know, whoever wrote the bank robbery episode and directed it should be doing like the whole series, because it gets problematic outside of this. I've never wanted a Karen so much in my life as I have in Daredevil Born Again. I'm just like, can we please have Karen? So Matt is I guess the big thing here is episode 6 centers around Muse, who we saw at the end of episode 4, as he kidnapped the guy that didn't testify at the trial, and takes him, and we see something's going on, and then we see these murals throughout town, and Kingpin, he's just kind of doing his thing, and he goes to this, he has this conversation with Vanessa, and he's like, politics is different. He's trying to fight this, this gang leader, right, that doesn't take Kingpin seriously now because Kingpin's like the mayor. And so he has the audacity to walk into Kingpin's office. I was like, Kingpin literally crushed somebody's head. Why are you here? Do you think he won't do that? So, yeah, dude, walks in, and he's the guy that owes the 1.8 million. He's like, no, we're not. And Kingpin doubles down and he's like, yeah, it's 2.8 million now. 1.8 to him and 1 to me for taxes. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I don't think it's going to work out well for the sort of nondescript random mafia guy, but Kingpin seems to have a way of keeping his hands clean and manipulating somebody else to do his dirty work for the most part. So he goes to a party where the wealthy people there sort of remind him that they're the ones with the real power, and he doesn't have. That's a great thing to remind Kingpin. I feel like everybody's about to have a rude awakening in terms of, first of all, doesn't Kingpin have money? Did he lose it all at some point? Is he poor? I thought he had money. I thought that was part of his thing, was that he also, I can't, it's been a minute. I did not rewatch the Netflix series. I did watch the Netflix series, but I didn't rewatch the Netflix series before the show. But I do remember him being rich in that series. I should say wealthy. I do remember him also starting out at least somewhat influential, and that was part of Matt's problem, was that Kingpin was inherently influential at the beginning. So, and he usually is. Wilson Fisk is usually somebody who has. So I don't understand how the other people are treating him like he doesn't matter. Is this the difference between like millionaires and billionaires? Like, oh, your 500 million is so cute up against my 10 billion. It's like, aren't we both rich? I don't, like, we're both rich. I mean, I know you have more, but I still have 500 million. I can do quite a lot with that. You know, I mean, it's seems like one of those sequences that they just put in here because they're like, this will be fun. We lead to Fisk finding out from a sanitation worker that these murals that are being painted all over town, including one of him, are actually being painted in blood. And it's a lot of blood. So they start doing analysis and they realize that each painting sort of has different people's bloods mixed in. And they surmise pretty quickly that Muse has killed at least like 60 people. So, making him somehow the most prolific serial killer to go unnoticed until now. And of course, Kingpin points out, he's like, when the sanitation department has found a serial killer before the police, something needs to change. Of course, his way of changing it is not really changing anything. The thing is, I think Kingpin, because he's a villain, he understands the difference between vigilantes and serial killers. I believe that. So, because he's not stupid. So he understands that Muse is different than what Daredevil is. So he puts together a vigilante task force, I guess because he thinks Muse is a vigilante. Even though the people who are going missing are not inherently evil people. They're not like, obviously, he's not missing a whole bunch of like gangbangers from his town. Muse is not grabbing that kind of, Muse is grabbing, you know, girls off the street and stuff like that. So they're two totally different things, but he still uses this time to find all of the corrupt cops that work for his system, and he puts them on this vigilante task force and gives them basically carte blanche to do whatever they want. He's like, no body cams, you can work overtime. You know, he wants them to be able to break faces and do whatever. Yeah, go out there and use excessive force and see what happens. So, okay. And we don't get to see how that plays out yet, but that's where it kind of leads. Meanwhile, in Matt's world, Matt basically just has to deal with I swear she said she was the niece, and she said that White Tiger was her uncle. Batgirl, she's back. She skipped school to come and tell Matt because she has no, I guess, concept of what a lawyer does, but that Matt, you know, that she's like, my uncle was on to something, you know, and well, he's a defense attorney. Watch Law and Order, like an episode, just an episode of Law and Order. Like, the conversation is inherently stupid because it's not the kind of conversation that you would have with your uncle's lawyer, like defense attorney who got him off of murder. It's the kind of conversation that you would have with Daredevil, but I mean, she never acknowledges that she knows he's Daredevil. There's no acknowledgement that White Tiger thought he was Daredevil. So she's just telling her blind uncle's defense attorney this stuff, and then she's really mad when he doesn't respond with, oh my God, I'm going to get right out there. Thank you for this engaging conversation, you high school teenager. So we're left with the ending to the conversation where this girl, who I'm not really a big fan of because every time they've used her, it's been like, I don't even know where she came from, because I swear he had a wife and then we didn't bring up the niece part, and then she just kind of showed up and she's like, oh, by the way, I'm a niece. Oh my God, of course you are. You know, now she's back again. And she's like, my uncle said sometimes you have to do it yourself. I'm like, oh, great. So was she going to become the White Tiger? Now she's just going to wander into the sewers by herself and with her camera phone and try to uncover Uh, the dangers that got her uncle killed. Her uncle, who was wearing a medallion that gave him powers. We never got to see White Tiger in action, so I don't like physically understand what he was doing. But one of my big gripes with the show is that we never actually got to see White Tiger do anything. He just kind of somebody just walked up to him and just popped him in the head, and they were like, "That's cool." And it's like, well, that I mean, there's a reason why we don't do that, because you could do that to like almost every single Marvel hero. They'd all be dead. Like, there'd be like 5 people left. The Avengers movie would be a lot easier to cast if everybody realized that, oh shit, headshots? Oh my god, we haven't thought of those? Damn, that's all we need. Go for the heads! We've been shooting at the wrong thing! Stop taking body shots. Anyway, so yeah, of course she gets captured by Muse because fucking duh. And Matt has to go rescue her because of course he does. And he gets back into his Daredevil costume in order to do so. And that's the win here, is that Matt finally puts on his Daredevil costume to rescue this girl that he's, I guess, indebted to or connected to spiritually. And I mean, I don't know, man. I want to like the show. Muse is also a really poorly established villain and feels like a villain that's never designed to be a primary villain, but is always a secondary villain. Just somebody who's going to be dispatched of pretty quickly, even though Muse survives the episode. It feels like there's no introduction to Muse. Our introduction to Muse was the draining of the blood of that one guy at the end of episode 4. There's like a grand, story behind the villain to show us sort of where they came from. Now, it's possible we may get a backstory episode. At the rate this show's being written, who knows what we're going to get at some point. Another thing that happens is Matt is with his girlfriend talking about she would love to interview she'd love to interview a superhero, a vigilante. Just, I don't know, get in the mindset of one. And she mentions Matt. She's like, oh, I'd love to talk to the Punisher or Daredevil, Frank Castle, and he's like, why would you want to do that? So I guess, I don't know, maybe that'll be the return of Frank. But we had 2 more episodes about Frank. We're still getting the Punisher logo showing up in places, though. That's intriguing. Like somebody's using Frank's logo all over the place without his knowledge. I mean, I remember it meant something greater in his show, but I think they're using it as a different purpose here. I don't think it necessarily means the same thing. So maybe it's one of those things where there's like a lost season of The Punisher where the series would have ended if it had been given another season of Netflix with him like buffing himself and giving the power of the Punisher to other people. I don't need to be the only one punishing. All of you have the power to punish. This is my logo. Use it. Without indiscriminately use my logo whenever possible. Yeah, so anyway, Daredevil Born Again. Not the worst episode of the season, but we're back down again. We're stepping our way back down through. I liked some stuff of it. I liked the fight sequences, but like I said, the juxtaposition of having Daredevil and Kingpin fighting at the same time, excellent. That was really cool. That was Daredevil's fight with Muse, great. Kingpin beating the shit out of Adam, great. Like, that sequence was fantastic, and felt like we were all moving towards that point. Kingpin also showing restraint and still trying to move around uh, politically and figure out how to politically manipulate things instead of how to just punch somebody's head off, which I feel like he's capable of. And I would be totally fine with that. Uh, punch that one dude's just head right off. Uh, yeah, we haven't done that yet, so I appreciate that Wilson is still trying to play by the rules, because I feel like at some point he's just going to be like, well, fuck it. And suddenly everything he's building towards that. He's building himself his task force of police who are they color outside the lines. So Daredevil Born Again. I'm gonna give it a B. Season 1, episode 6. I think episode 5 is best thus far. So I just wanted to have that contrast by doing 2 separate reviews, 2 different days, watching them separately, because I had a feeling we weren't going to repeat that, and I was right. So we don't need White Tiger's niece wandering around like a dumbass with a phone, with her phone light, no weapons, just no discernible skill set whatsoever. By the way, we have no ability, no. We've never seen whether or not she can fight. She's just walking around with a fucking phone camera as like a high schooler. She's like, well, my uncle said to do it. Well, your uncle had a medallion that allowed him to fight. You moron. So yeah, I had some hot takes on this. I think shitty writing, because I knew immediately when she was like, and Matt should have known. That's the thing too, is God damn, he should have just turned around and just slapped and just been like, no, you're not, sit down, get back in this chair. You're not going to go out there and do exactly what I know you're going to do, which is try to become a vigilante with no discernible skill set, no powers, no nothing, no suit. You're just going to walk around with and just, I don't know. What was her game plan? Like, she was going to uncover, and what happens when she finds somebody? Like, what was she gonna do? Did she have a gun at least on her? Because it never mentioned one. Did she? What was the plan? What was her plan? This is what I'm talking about with the writing. What was her plan? You want me to treat her like she's not a dumbass, but at the same time, what was her plan? To like film somebody and then be like, I got you on camera, na 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 na, and then like run from the room. Is that her plan? Really? Anyway, this is a frustrating show. Daredevil Born Again. I'll be back next week though. We're gonna get through this together. Until then, I'll see you guys on the other side.